Okay, so we just spent 3 minutes doing a little retrieval practice. So if you're watching the replay and you haven't done that yet, pause the video and do a little bit of retrieval. What do you remember from the introduction chapters 1 and chapters 2 and 3 before going back and watching our conversation? Okay, so let's get started. I can start and then feel free to unmute and let's just make it a conversation. We can make it work with a small group, I think, pretty easily. So the first thing I wrote down was the knowing is in the doing. I absolutely love that because it's like my philosophy. Like, don't try to make it perfect, just start doing it, and you will understand it and know it better when you're actually doing that. And it just resonates for me. It's such a good reminder that with this too, like I don't know everything about executive functions, but the knowing is in doing it and figuring it out as you go. So I really appreciate that quote. Is there anything that you want to say about that quote or share something else from your retrieval practice, either of you?
Sure. Sometimes, yeah, starting can definitely be the hardest part. It's kind of like really like, okay, I know I should exercise 20 minutes every day, but then actually doing it.
It's so different.
So, but yeah, I mean, at least when you get started like that, it's great. Um, I was looking at like the three keys for executive functioning, and those just kept coming up, and it's just like clarity, routine, modeling, like they are so like true as to what you need and to help these kids understand like the process behind everything and the why and the how that we even teach really. um and then the time thing too, like the amount of time you lose for 1 minute,
I
1 minute
know that
lost
calculation,
every day,
right?
right? 3 hours in a year, and it's just like whoo. And working with the community that I do, there tends to be a lot of unused time in that aspect because they're very verbal culture. They don't have much written work, or their written is fairly new, like since the 70s, their written language, or maybe even a little bit older than that. Somali is very, it's a, it's not a new language, but it's a new written language.
Written
It's kind of
language.
interesting. So, so they're a very verbal culture, and it's just like, oh, all these minutes I'm wasting on having to say, when teacher's talking, you should not be type thing. It's like, oh, I'm losing a lot of time throughout the year. And how can I be more clear to that effect of how that, even modeling how it looks and what that means and things of that sort.
Absolutely. Sorry if you hear that dinging. I seem to have things open. It doesn't say it's open. Um, yeah, for sure. Like that stood out to me as well, that 1 minute um, a day is 3 hours a year. But with language and learners that are
Mhm.
used to learning in that language, it's going to just take longer, isn't it? Because the
Yeah.
spoken word often can and does take longer than the written word. Yeah. So thinking about a beginning routine then with this population of learners, like what do you think that means for those minutes and that beginning routine? And what are you thinking about?
I'm just thinking about like the on timeness. Like I do have some students who are, they're just like, oh, I need a pencil, and I need this kind of thing, and I need that kind of thing, and just kind of getting them all in and prepared on time can be kind of a challenge. That can be kind of a challenge everywhere though. Like
Yeah.
having what you need on time, ready to learn when that bell initially rings. I mean, I always have something for them to do at the beginning of class, whether it's called a do now or a starter or something of that sort. And throughout the year, they know the process for doing that. Like when I come in, I need to grab my half sheet. I need to go sit at my desk. The starter's on the board. I need to start writing it down and copying it off the board and then answering it. So there's a lot of them. Most of them know these things already, but there is time wasted for those who are still not understanding those processes. And it could be an issue of clarity. Like I need to be more clear and model it more often than what I'm doing.
Yeah, so back to those three keys where you started
Mm,
it. Clarity, routine, and modeling. Sounds like you have the routine there, but you're
yeah.
kind of wondering about the clarity and modeling.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Something I
Yeah.
could use. Mhm.
Yeah. Kirsten, I want to make sure we're leaving space for you to contribute if you want to. No pressure. Just I know you have to mute and unmute and
Yeah, no, it's fine. um, there's actually a fire truck and an ambulance across the street. It's great. Um, very busy intersection. So, but oddly enough, I actually wrote down those same 3 points, and that the whole concept of studentness was
Mhm.
another thing that you know I I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's kind of like trying to get students to feel like students. Um, and the fact that the tools need to be taught, not chucking a compass, the analogy that he used, and going, all right, now go find your way. So, which again gets us back to the clarity, routine, and modeling thing.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I was like listening, going, yeah, my students speak perfect English, and yet I am having some of the same issues. And we're doing this. We've got we come in and we have our weekly lifeline. And sorry, there was a really cute dog that just walked by. It was distracting. Um, and the kids have a prompt that they fill in the morning, and or right when they get in, whichever period they're in. And some of the students are just not invested in doing this. So I get oh, I don't know where my pencil is. And the just sitting there, or, I'm like, okay, the prompt is on the board. This is what it looks like when you write it. And I'm literally sharing my binder with them. And they're like, just not into it. So I'm like still working on getting the routine down for everyone, but a lot of the kids are doing it. And I feel like it's mostly the eighth graders, because we have seventh and eighth grade, that are resistant. Like the kids that are new to middle school, like I am, are like, all right, this is just what we do here in middle school. And they're kind of, they know the routine and they just get right to it. So that's cool.
That is cool. Can I ask you a follow-up question since you're using the binder methodology? Because what really stood out to me that he talked about was all starting the prompt at the same time. I was one of those teachers that I had the prompt on the board, and they as they trickled in, they spent time doing that, and he kind of explained three reasons, I think, of why that method is not as good as making them all wait and start together. Instead, they're preparing for the learning, like we're kind of talking about here. So,
Yeah.
how does that look for you, Kirsten?
So um, it we're doing that. We're like, okay, yes, we're going to wait till everyone is ready, but it's that part. So on the board when we get in, there's the class, period. So they know where they're at. Leave that up for a second. Then it's check to make sure you've got everything you need. You have your binder, you have your water bottle, you have your Chromebook if you need it, your reading book that we're working on if you need it. So everything they need for class is posted on the slide. Um, and then we move on to the prompt at the same time. And I usually give them like 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the prompt, to do it. And then go over it really quickly and move on to the rest of the lesson. And there's still like some resistance, shall I say.
There's still space for the I don't have a pencil and the
And, you know, even if it's like, you know, I'm checking in with everyone when that slide about what you need is on the board. And yeah, fire truck, I'm gonna mute.
okay. The fire truck right across the way, poor thing. Oh my goodness. Um, yeah, so it's like I wonder if the why would help some of those kids start doing their, writing it of like we do this because it gets our brain primed and we retrieve what we learned yesterday. That way we're ready to learn some of the why, like we have to activate our executive functions basically. Um, might help. What else might help?
I'm wondering about like intrinsic motivation in
Mhm.
terms of maybe some of these students have less of an intrinsic motivation than others to be like, oh, yeah, I want to make sure I'm ready. There are some kids who are eager to please, who are like, yep, I want to be ready and I want to show the teacher I'm ready. And then there are some who are just like, I really don't really care if I'm ready or not. And so it is kind of like, how do you get them to want to be ready?
Mhm. Mhm. How do
So,
you get them to say, I like that class because we do that and it helps me?
yeah,
Like
that
Mitch was
too.
talking about, right? He was saying kids liked his class because, not because it was science, but because they knew what was happening. They were organized.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't help that I'm new. And I think also a lot of them, the ones that are doing this, are used to kind of avoiding in order to not feel like they can't succeed.
uh-huh.
They're avoiding even this part um, because it's just a habit that they're in. So I think trying to figure out how to break the habit and getting them to just go with it because they like to just on principle not go with whatever the teacher says they should go with. Like, you know, please sit properly in your chair instead of like, you know, sitting on the floor with your feet on the chair. That is not a proper way to sit in the chair. So they're really kind of pushing some of the boundaries. And it's just their habit, you know, it's how they've always kind of like gotten around doing the things that might indicate that they were struggling. Like, even though this is easy and, you know, but they don't want to see that yet. We'll get there.
yeah, interesting.
Did Mitch talk about something like that in the book? I can remember maybe chapter 2 or something, like about that teacher that met with the students during her prep time or something like that and talked about how it was helping them. And the one kid was like, it made me feel smart or something like that.
Hmm.
And I have to wonder if that's not kind of an area to kind of go to for, like maybe it's the building the relationships type thing, you know? You can't, the thing is with kids, it's like not every personality jives with each other. And so it's like if most of your kids are really like into like they're doing their stuff, Kirsten, I think that, I mean, how do you get that 100%? Like, oh, what do you do? Because you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, this is also true, and I'm new. So, you know, there are definitely kids missing the teacher that was there last year. And because,
Uh-huh.
like, you know, they have the same teacher for at least 2 years, um, they, you know, there's a transition and the testing and all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
a lot of it's like new teacher stuff that I'm encountering. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that will pass. But Michelle, what
oh,
you're saying is making me think about, you said the word you do nows, which I've done in
Yeah.
the past too. And a lot of times those, in my mind at least, the way I've done them, have a social emotional kind of check-in too.
Okay.
And I've been thinking about that a lot reading this, and I know that executive functions and together with our social emotional feeling safe, feeling like we can, be interested in things, all that is connected too. So I almost wonder, I would love to ask Mitch, and maybe I need to write down this question for when he comes back at the end of like, what is that intentionally left out of this beginning routine because
Mm.
we're only working on executive functions, or is that something I could add into the routine,
The SEL portion
Yeah,
you're
the
saying,
SEL
Sybil?
portion.
Okay.
And I wonder in their younger grade book, that's going to be coming out kindergarten through second grade, if that's going to be in there too, which is like where my background and why I push SEL so much, even for adults, coming from that place. Um, but I wonder if some kind of interest base, they get to
Mhm.
just write something good that happened to them today or whatever, one
Yeah,
good thing, as well as the rest of the things in the binder. Is that intentionally left out? Could you do it with it? He's going to say, of course you could, right? You know
right.
your context, you know your kids, but it's just coming to mind.
Yeah, and what would he have for that? Like, what would he suggest? How would he
Right.
suggest to implement that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've thought about trying to figure out how to incorporate, like I've done some training in the Yale Ruler program, which is an SEL program that has check-ins, like mood meter check-ins, they're called in that
Yeah.
program, but it's similar to other programs that I've looked into. Um,
Hmm.
so in the way that we've adapted it, each each teacher has an advisory group of students,
Yeah.
and we have an advisory checkout at the end of every day where, and obviously this doesn't help the beginning routine, but at the end of the day, we have like a how was your day, and you just rank it 1 through 5, and then any successes, challenges, homework that you need to do, and any unanswered questions. So if they have any unanswered questions, we can follow up with that and either answer them or refer them to the correct teacher. So it's just a way of like a quick communication thing at the end of each day.
I
That's
like
great.
that, Kirsten. I like that a lot.
I can share the template that we're using.
Yeah, sure. If you're able
Advisory
to
layout.
through the
Yeah.
host or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be amazing.
Hmm.
I think that'd be really helpful. Um, Yeah, it's really thinking about like how does SEL play into our executive functions?
Uh-huh.
They're definitely not separate. So yeah, really interesting. What else stood out to you, or what do you wonder about, or what challenged you?
There was one thing. Now I gotta think about what it was. Hold on, I gotta find it. If you have
Okay.
something, Kirsten, go ahead.
Um, the other thing that when I was reading about the beginning routines that stood out was there, and oddly enough, it's the same students that have trouble like actually settling into the beginning routine that then just like don't follow through, and I lose them. And then I end up losing time in the middle of the day after establishing the routine. So again, it's like, okay, now I'm not losing minutes right at the beginning, but I'm still losing instructional minutes as they then decide something else is more interesting. I'm also going to adjust my seating charts because that's part of the problem. There's too much proximity among some of them, but like, so that was the other thing. I was like, well, got the beginning almost there, but I'm still losing a fair number of them somewhere like into the class. And I don't think it's because of the content necessarily, because a lot of them are able to like stick with it, and um, they're all kind of loud and boisterous, generally speaking.
What subject are you, Kirsten?
Uh, we have combined uh, social studies and language arts into humanities. So humanities,
Okay.
and I am technically teaching science, but my co-teacher is pretty much doing that, and I'm just assisting. So I don't really think of myself as a science teacher yet.
Okay. All right.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Another thing that I looked at was that I kind of had a question on is the no opt-out policy
Mm.
that he mentions. Um, where it's just like I would almost like a little bit more clarification on that from him. Like, yeah, they're engaging in the routine, but to what extent? You know, how or what way should they be, and like I have like a weekly routine in my classroom. Like Mondays, we focus on science vocabulary and we do science like applied math. Okay, so science related math. Tuesdays we do notes. Wednesdays we do labs. Thursdays we do review and quiz. Fridays we do science literature or articles or and things like that. So I have a breakdown. I have a routine in terms of like what we do each day. So the kids know, like, oh, it's Wednesday in science. Okay, we're doing a lab or we're doing some sort of activity. And so it's just like the no opt out, though. Is that like, is he just kind of saying, like, I don't want kids to, or kids aren't like, I just don't want to do it? Is that what he's saying with that?
That's the impression I got, was
Mm.
that nope, everyone does it because everyone can do this. Like, so, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually discussed this, so I'm trying to look back and see my notes at the last call because, and I don't remember where it is. Do you know where it is in the book?
I'm looking right now. I'm trying to see if I can find it, what
Because he
page it was.
pairs it with something that almost has a little bit of irony
It
with
was
it.
in self-regulation through a daily routine.
Okay.
So it was in that area.
I
And I'm
think that
trying
was like in the
to,
40s, because I think that's how we got there. 45 is self-regulation through a daily routine. Yes, I wrote on the sticky note here, self-regulation grows, so does self-awareness. No opt-out, call to action builds self-regulation. That's
Yeah, students
47.
need to make an effort to engage in the routine, and
That's
they
on
are
page
held
48.
accountable to do so. Yeah.
Consistent daily routine provides students with a self-regulation call to action is the most effective way to substantially incorporate a no opt-out policy, meaning students need to make an effort to engage in the routine and they are held accountable to do so. In other words, no one is allowed to not participate. So you asked what level. He's just saying they have to
Yeah.
participate, at least participate. He's not
Okay.
really giving it a level. The minimum level
Yeah.
is participate.
I mean, I do like the self-regulation stuff because I mean, I think all kids need it. Just plain and simple.
And
Just
the reality is, if they just have to do it
yeah.
every day, they start just mechanically doing it every day, right? Their muscle memory is like,
Yeah.
this is what I do. But if you let them opt out, they wouldn't build that, right?
Yeah. He
Yeah.
quotes Doug Lemoff and Teach Like a Champion with that. So you're trying to break through kids with a fixed mindset who think, okay, I'm never going to be a good student because
Right.
this is something they can do. So opting out is a safe route for those kids. So this is like, nope, you cannot opt
Mm.
out. And then they see that, oh, I actually can do this part of being a student. So hopefully it generates breakthroughs and lets them know that it's safe to be a student.
Yeah, and he's wanting engagement, not accuracy, right?
Right. I mean, the content isn't important. It's the routine. The fact
Yep.
that they can succeed at the routine, even if they're still not quite understanding the content. It's all right. And
Yeah.
it also lets them know, like, unless you're being like, oh, that's wrong, that you're creating a dialogue with the material. And even if they're not getting it, that's an all right part of that dialogue.
And that's a really good insight on that, Kirsten, because I would not have pulled that.
Yeah, because I wrote down clarity engagement routine, and then it wasn't until you said it that I was like, oh wait, it wasn't engagement, it was modeling. So like I didn't pull it out, retrieve it completely accurately, but then I did enough that I was able to pick it up when it came up again. You know what I mean? In the learning.
Yeah.
So it's a safe place to make mistakes too, if you're not being graded for accuracy. To just try
Yeah.
to really retrieve.
And I could see how that would be then a gateway. Like, hey, if I can do the routine, then I can learn how to take notes, or I can, you know, do this worksheet or whatever, maybe,
Yeah.
I can answer a question, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It tells the brain I can be successful. I can do what I'm supposed to do. I can do it on my own because I do it every day.
Mhm.
Yep. For sure. For sure. So, Michelle, are you thinking about revising your beginning routine or
I was thinking about it, but I'm like, how do I because we just started school this week. This week was
okay.
our first week in our first days in school. So it's I think to myself, I haven't really started like hey, this is what I'm just kind of teaching like different policies and classroom expectations, which I have utilized his idea of making sure the expectations are like school wide. Like all of us middle school teachers got on the same boat in saying, okay, these are the main 5 expectations that we want our students to know. But at the same time, when I'm looking at clarity, I'm thinking there's a lot of gray area in some of these expectations because they're very broad. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like like rocking a hard place. And so, or yeah, and it's just like, how do I really integrate this? Because now would be a perfect time because I haven't done
Yes.
anything set in stone yet.
Mhm.
So that's where it's just like, if I'm going to change anything, I need to do it now.
Yeah, what do I want to try to integrate now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Are you reading ahead or have you read it before?
I personally haven't.
Okay.
Have you, Kirsten?
Kirsten, have you read the book before?
I have not read it. No, I just, like I said, the school that I now work at, they, at the end of August, sent us a link to like an hour-long introduction to
Okay.
the organized binder. And so I attended that, and then they also sent the link to this book group thing. So that's how it's all coming from the school. But I haven't actually read the book. I've, just seen Mitch talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. Because I haven't read ahead yet either. I'm trying to just stay with it because it'll just be easier to lead the discussion. But if I was in your place, Michelle, I was thinking, would I want to be like knowing it all? That you would keep know it
Right.
all.
Yeah, because it's like, do I want to have it all at hand and be like, okay, how can I? But sometimes it takes a while to process things and to
It
really
does.
like think about what he was saying and internalize it for yourself in your own classroom because you don't know what each year is going to throw at you. something different every year.
And you know what? Kids, they're flexible and you want them to be flexible. So if you
Mhm.
change your beginning routine in 3 weeks, you change your beginning routine. I think I maybe did that too much sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, but the reality is, okay, I noticed this, and so we're gonna try this, right? That you can continue to kind of add on or change things if you need to as well.
Yeah.
But I hear the wanting to start it out and just go because it just saves you so much time when you have those good routines at work.
And the thing is, it's like, okay, I might be wasting time with the starter by having them wait until everybody like class has
It's
begun
there.
and they
Mhm.
have their things out. But I'm just like, gosh, I could see that how it could be beneficial also for executive functioning because it's like, okay, I have my place. Do I have my pencil? Do I have my paper? Do I have my notebook? Do I have my this or that? And kind of going through the checklist of items that they need for class and being like, all right, look at my, do I have everything? Yep, I do. Miss Wicks, I'm ready for my, you know, sitting here waiting, ready for class. So,
Yeah, because if those same kids are skipping the preparation every single day, they are not
yeah,
building that executive functioning skill.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that is just the truth, isn't it? And the one that stands out to me that he said a reason you don't do the rolling start is kids feel left behind, like it's already too
right.
late. I don't have enough time to write it already. I got in here too
Mhm.
late, and that really resonated with me. I was like, oh yeah, and you can imagine which kids would feel that way the most, or which kids would feel like they can never get prepared because they get in there and kids have already been writing for 5 minutes and haven't even
Right.
got out their pencil yet. And so yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's really making me think um, differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess kids could sit there with a book if they were all prepared. You have those kids that are also like crazy prepared, like on the other end.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's the thing too, because I have that in my class. It's like, what should I do next?
yeah.
So if
Mhm.
I'm done before everybody else is,
Yeah.
or I'm done really early, what can I do next so as not to bother the person next to me so they can finish their work, blah de da.
Yeah.
So I do have those things like read a book, draw, just
Yeah.
doodle. That's
Just doodle.
fine. And
Mhm.
then or like just put your head down. Maybe you just need a break from the lights. I don't
Mhm. Mhm.
know. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure.
I have
Anything?
found it not difficult to implement, like the pieces, especially like the one thing that is a little like the table of contents, different teachers are using it differently, but all the other pieces work really well to just because it's short, and that's kind of what I like about it. It does in fact get people on the same page right away. And then the agenda is a good place for them to write in, okay, this is what we're doing today. So it's their learning objective for the day, and then what they're going to, like the assignment they're going to have. And then we added a checkbox where they can check it off when they finish it. So it's really simple beginning of class routines, and then you're on to the rest of the class. And then at the end, the learning log is kind of like an exit ticket. It's like, okay, list 2 things that you learned about today, or, we've been doing the uh, American Revolution. So, you know, who won the Battle of Lexington, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. That simplicity makes so much sense, and the fact that you're just modeling it and practicing it every day, and that's how we build the skill. Um, we're not actually teaching it, we're just doing it. That's it makes a lot of sense with the brain. And thinking about myself as a learner, I got to get ready for learning and then I got to close off the learning, right? Before you go into the next thing, especially our kids that then go off to the next subject, right?
Mhm.
they never closed that off. It's like they're still thinking about science and they're over here in humanities. Yeah.
Right. And you know that's a great point too, Sybil, is that I don't really close things out. I don't
Mm.
have much, I don't have very good closure in my classroom. And I know how I feel when I don't get closure watching an episode of a show. I'm just like, what? No. And so it creates a little bit of anxiety. And so
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, I probably need to like wrap things up, close things up, and so that they get that like literal closure.
Literal closure. Yeah. You know what? I'm the same way. And as an elementary teacher, it's like, oh, it's time to go to PE. Oh, and
Right.
just one thing after another. And so what I started doing was setting a timer. I'd have a kid set a timer on my smart TV or whatever that always ended 5 minutes before. So whatever time it was, I was done my lesson or whatever. I was like, okay, set a timer for 20 minutes. It's going to end 5 minutes. It's going to go off 5 minutes before the end of the period. And I would tell them why we're doing it, and we would always close in some way. And that was a game changer for me. I do it with adults too in consulting. I'm running a meeting. I say, okay, it's this time now. We're going to stop at this time and we're going to close. Um, because I needed that reminder for myself because I just wouldn't close and I'd be like, oh, everyone line up. And I was like, that's not effective. So that you might want to try a timer. That worked for me because I want to get in the flow. I want to get in the groove with the kids. And when you do that, you lose track of time and then
Yeah.
you forget the closing.
Yeah.
And then I would just have like 5 things in my tool belt, 5 different ways I could close, right? Turn to a
Okay.
partner and do this is one way you could close if you really only had 2 minutes,
Right.
or you could have a whole class discussion, or they could write in there, I'm sure his closing routines will be really good, but write it down in your journal, whatever. But you just have your routines and then you leave the time for it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Speaking of closure, should we call it good? Is there anything else you really wanted to discuss today? No?
Yep.
I'm so glad you've gotten to stick with us, Kirsten, and that's worked out. So one way I like to close, speaking of just having a routine, is with one word. So what's one word that's coming to mind right now? So it could be a synthesis, it could just be a feeling, it could be one word that was spoken today that stuck out to you. Um, but no explanation needed. And we'll just each give our one word to close out our call today. Okay. So I can start, and my one word is modeling. Michelle, you want to share a word with us?
I don't know my word.
Okay, I'll give you some thinking
Do
time.
you have an idea of a word, Kirsten?
Kirsten, do you have a word idea for a word?
I was trying to decide between hopeful and energized. Need to
Ah.
move forward.
Awesome.
Um, I would probably say clarity. I've just been focusing on that a lot lately in his readings. So
Yeah.
clarity.
Amazing. Well, thank you
Mhm.
for showing up and having a lovely discussion this afternoon, evening. And I look forward to more in the group. So next week we're going to read the next 2 chapters. What is it? 4 and 5. And then I
Okay.
have a couple calls on the calendar again for next week. And then I was going to kind of see how many people could come to these times and go from there for the weeks out after that. So if you have a preference, let me know. I'll probably just be asking in the group sometime next week, like, hey, when should we have our calls the following week?
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
Thank you
great.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
So nice to
Thank
meet you all and have
Um,
a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, you
you too.
too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.